I did everything for my boss. Well, I'm at the limit because what she requested from me this time is absolutely beyond my expectations for what I'm being paid. But then she decides to send me to her home after my 5 o'clock shift, and you won't believe what she's asked me to do. I'm a 25-year-old male working as a personal assistant to my 43-year-old boss, Mary. She's not really a great boss, as she's always calling me after hours and demanding that I do things that are not part of my job description. But the pay is a little over minimum wage, and far better than I could ever get elsewhere with my qualifications, so I stay with the company. I don't even really know what my boss does or what the company actually does either. My boss is the CEO, so she has a very busy schedule. My main tasks are taking notes during meetings, picking up her dry cleaning, getting her lunch, and just little things like that. Every now and then, she does demand that I come to her home after hours, just to drop off some milk or something, and that does bother me. But no one my age is 100% happy with their job, right? At least, none of my friends are anyways. Well, on rare occasions, Mary has been having me babysit her kids for a few hours. It doesn't happen often, and honestly, I hate when it does, because I don't get along well with kids, but she pays me time and a half whenever it happens, so I put up with it. It's for the money. The kids are sweet though, and they aren't badly behaved or anything. I just have nothing in common with children. And every time I have to put one in timeout, I wonder if they're going to report me back to my boss, and I'm going to lose my job. They really are good kids though. They're triplets, aged 3 years old. I've been working on my boss for 5 years, so I've known these kids since before they were even conceived. I'm the one who researched clinics for my boss and her ex-husband when they were having fertility issues. Mary married her ex-husband about 6 years ago, just before I came onto the scene, and they struggled with the fertility for a long time. Eventually, after a lot of research on my behalf, they found a clinic that was willing to help. This is why the kids are triplets. It's not a crazy thing of nature. 3 eggs were implanted into my boss, and luckily for her, all 3 eggs took a growing of babies. My boss and her husband, unfortunately, got a divorce last year, and her mood has suffered greatly because of it. Due to this, my own stress levels have been through the roof, and it makes the work environment very uncomfortable, and her temper has become increasingly worse and worse over the past few months. Well, she seemed to be in a very good mood yesterday morning, which was unusual, so of course I was in a good mood too. Since the divorce, it's been very rare for me to walk into work and find my boss smiling, so I felt marginally more relaxed than I usually do when I'm working. Of course, there was still the underlying anxiety part. While it's rare for me to just walk in and find her smiling, it has happened in the past, and once or twice the smile became a scowl very quickly, and led to some of the worst days of my career. I'm talking yelling, screaming, throwing things, people being spontaneously fired, you name it. So, while I was hopeful that her good mood was a good sign, there was still a part of me that was worried she was going to turn into, well, just any second, as she has done before. Her good mood lasted, though, throughout the entire workday, and I was feeling great. I think that I was getting ahead of myself and hoping that she was finally moving on from the messy divorce and would stop being such a jerk all the time. When I first started working for her, she was demanding, yes, but she was polite too and treated me like an actual human being. Ever since the divorce papers were signed, she's turned into a bit of a gargoyle, screaming at me most of the time she gets a chance, daily, just for getting small things wrong. It was about 5, my official knocking off time, and I was hoping that I would be allowed to leave at the time. My contract is for a 9-to-5 job, but it is not unheard of for me to be working until like 8 p.m., and back in the office by 9 the next morning. I was hoping that her good mood would have her be gracious enough to let me go home when I'm supposed to. But no, she called me into her office at 5 and told me that she needs me to do one thing for her before I went home. Usually, she just has me pick up some dinner from a restaurant across the street or call the nanny, tell them that she's going to be late, so I didn't think much of it. But then she told me to go to her house and watch the kids until she gets home. Now, as I said, this is not the first time that she's had me babysit, so I wasn't exactly super shocked. But I was a little disappointed that I would not be able to start my weekend at the night time. As yesterday was Friday and I get weekends off. I agreed though. She wasn't exactly asking, so I didn't really agree, but I just said yes, ma'am. She thanked me and told me that she would be home soon. I caught a taxi outside of the office building and was at her apartment within 20 minutes. When I got there, the nanny rushed out the door without even bothering to talk to me, which was very strange. On the rare occasion that I've been the one to relieve her, she usually gives me a rundown of the kid's day. She'll tell me who has a runny nose, who didn't eat much, who's feeling cranky, that kind of thing. But this time she just ran past me without saying a word. The kid likes me, and I'll say that. While I'm not amazing with kids and often feel uncomfortable around them, most of the children I've met in my life do like me. And my boss's kids, well, they're no exception. As soon as I walked into the living room, all 3 of them were surrounding me, all talking at once, and I found it hard to understand their toddler babble. But as they got older and the clearer that their speech became, the more I can understand what it is they're actually saying to me. As I said, the latest I've ever gotten off work previously was about 8 o'clock. It wasn't even ideal, but it wasn't too crazy, so I wasn't too worried for the next few hours. I know the routine pretty well by now, so I made them some food, changed a few diapers, watched some god-awful Paw Patrol, and put the kids to bed. They were all asleep by 7:30, so I just settled it on the couch and waited for my boss to arrive. Well, by the time it got to 8, I have not heard a word from her. I decided that I'd give her until 8:30 to arrive. I was giving her the benefit of the doubt and assuming that she had just have a hard time getting a taxi or something at this time of night. But as it got later, I began to worry. She wasn't here by 9 and I start to panic. I'm an anxious person at best of times, so when she was over an hour late, I was immediately assuming the worst. Car crash, heart attack, every single gruesome possibility were playing in my head. I tried to call her on her work phone, but there was no answer, which was even more strange. She always has her work phone on her, no matter what. So the fact is that it was just going straight to voicemail was straight worrying me. She's pretty strict about her personal phone, and she's made it clear to me that I should only call her on it if the situation is an absolute emergency. And so far, I've never had to use it. But I felt like it was the right time, so I did end up calling her personal number. She picked up straight away, and she didn't even sound mad that I called her. She sounded happy. More than I've ever heard her sound in a long time. I didn't even get to say anything before she was giggling down the phone and asking how the babies were doing. To be perfectly honest, she sounded drunk. But obviously, I wasn't going to ask my boss if she's been drinking. That would give me fired in a second. I told her that the kids were doing fine, that they've eaten and been put to bed and were all asleep. This is the part where she said the craziest thing ever. So, first of all, she thanked me for being such a great assistant. She said that she didn't know where she would be without me and that she was grateful to me for being by her side for all these years. I didn't put much stock into what she was saying. She always gets sentimental when she drinks, and this wasn't the first time she's thanked me for working for her. I just settled on my usual reaction of ignoring what she said, so I asked her when she was going to get back home. I'll admit that I lied and told her I had something waiting on me at home, but I just wanted to be able to go, have a shower, enjoy my weekend. She's usually pretty conscious of whether people think that she's a good boss or not, so it's usually pretty easy to manipulate her into letting me go. I was expecting this. But that is not what she said. So, she apologizes profusely and said that she was so sorry for keeping me past hours, but then she said that she was going to have to ask more of me. My heart sank, thinking at this point, I knew that whatever it was that she was going to ask me to do, it was going to be way above my pay grade. And alas, I was right. This woman had the nerve to tell me that she was going on a vacation, and she needs me to look after her kids until she gets back. I don't mean that she'd be gone away for a couple of days, and I need to stay with the kids until the nanny comes in the morning. Even that would be a rude and disrespectful thing to ask me to do. I mean that she's going on a 3-week vacation, and she wants me to take care of her children until she gets back, with zero help from the nanny, who had apparently quit when she was asked to do the same. A literal childcare professional quit when she was asked to do this, but my boss is trusting me, some random man who has barely any experience with kids, to do it? I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I don't know what the procedure is for this situation. I tried to tell her as politely as possible that I would not be able to do that, but she just cut me off and told me that her flight was leaving and that she'd see me in a few weeks. She hasn't even left an emergency contact number or anything. I spent the entire night sitting awake in the couch on the living room, expecting her to walk in the door at any moment and tell me that she was joking. But no. It's 10 a.m. right now, and I haven't heard a word from her since she hung up the phone. I've tried calling multiple times, but it seems like she's turned off her personal phone as well as her work phone. The kids all woke up grumpy, and all 3 have been crying nonstop since they woke up that their mom's not here. I literally have no idea what I'm supposed to do here. I managed to bribe the kids to stop crying for a little while with some Cheetos, but that can only last for so long. They're all zoned out in front of the TV watching Peppa Pig, and I'm hiding in the kitchen. I've only had like 20 minutes to myself, enough time to call my mom and ask her for advice, and to write this post. Mom's advice was not helpful at all. She struggled with unemployment throughout her life, so her way of thinking is always to do whatever is possible to keep her job. She told me that I just have to grin and bear it. She was even excited about the chance of me being paid time and a half for 3 weeks straight. I'm hoping that you guys have a little bit more useful information because I'm dying here. Every few minutes, the kids keep calling out for their mom. Luckily, the TV's been distracting them before they notice that she isn't coming. But eventually, I'm going to have a 3-way tantrum on my hands, and I have no idea how to deal with it. I have no experience with children other than like an hour or 2 here or there. Does anyone know what I should do in this situation? Is it even legal for my boss to ask me to do this? 21 days straight with kids, and I barely know them without any single day of reprieve. Someone's going to end up getting hurt, and honestly, I hope it's me. I'm going to try to call her a few more times, but I don't hold much hope that she's going to answer the phone. I have to go now. I think the Cheetos have run out. I'll let you all know how it goes, and I'm hoping that in the meantime, you all come up with the perfect advice for me. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So this story is very interesting. It has multiple updates. The next update came out just a few hours later, and OP feels like it's in a desperate situation. Let's jump into the update right now. I hope you guys are having a great day. Here it is. Hello everyone. It's only been a few hours since I first posted this, but I thought that I'd let you all know how things are going. Quite a few people have reached out and given me advice, and I wanted to say that I appreciate it. I really do. None of it's turned out to actually be useful, but you guys can't help that. The kids are currently asleep, and I got a text from my boss outlining their day schedule. I tried to call her as soon as the message came in, but she must have turned her phone off as soon as it was sent, because I was just getting voicemails again. I'm pretty much at the end of my tether, and it's only day 2 of a 3-week job. These kids are insane. They run around screaming 70% of the time, and the other 30 is spent crying for their mom. My head is literally about to explode, and I don't think I'm going to make it if I'm being completely honest. The schedule my boss sent me is insane, and I don't think anybody alive could follow it, and especially someone like me who has no idea how to interact with children. She wants me to get all 3 kids up and dressed at 6:30 a.m., feed them by 7, and have every single one of them until their 8 p.m. bedtime regimen, with like 50 activities to fit into 1 hour. I've already messed up. I don't think anybody could get 3 toddlers organized in half of an hour, unless there's some kind of superhero. I'm in constant terror that one of the kids is going to fall or something. If they get bruised, I know for a fact that I'm losing my job. I actually cannot believe the selfishness of my boss at this point. She was always pretty difficult to work for, but this is just something else. I wouldn't know how to take care of 1 kid, even if a 10-year-old, but 3 toddlers? I'm losing my mind. I'm covered in food, I'm covered in snot, I haven't slept, I haven't showered, and it feels like my brain is shorting. A few of you guys have suggested that I call my boss's ex, the kid's father, but I cannot impress on you guys just how much my boss hates that man. The divorce was insanely messy, and the custody stuff is still going on. My boss has been in court 3 times in the last few months, and every time she becomes a raging monster for a week after. If I call her ex, I'm as good as sending in my resignation, because my job is toast. I need this job, I really do. I've been Mary's personal assistant for 5 years since I was 20. I have no other qualifications, and if my employment ends on bad terms, you can be sure that I can kiss my references goodbye. By the same token, I don't think I can even work for somebody who would just drop all her kids on me and leave the country for 3 weeks. It shows complete selfishness more than any she's shown before. I was okay with the late nights and the tantrums because I was getting paid well, and I was used to it. But this is just taking things too far. I'm really of 2 minds here, but I don't have the time to be puzzling it out. I'm too busy changing diapers and trying to intervene in toddler wars when I can barely understand what each side is even saying. Well, thank you for the comments and all the support, I guess. I'll tell you how the things go. Update number 2. I'm going to lose my job. I know it. There's no question about it. I had to call my boss's ex. There was literally no other option. I tried calling the old nanny. I had her number because of work. She only answered after the first 5 times I tried to call her, and she only stayed on the phone long enough to tell me to leave her alone. I tried to pull the child neglect card and guilt her into coming back. At least just to help, but it didn't work. I pulled out all the stops and told her about how inept I am at childcare and how the kids were in danger with me as their sole guardian. But she wasn't buying it. Apparently, I wasn't the only one my boss liked to jerk around. It seems like she wasn't the best employer to anyone, not just me. I tried to hold out. I really did. It's been 2 days since my last update, and I thought I was getting the hang of things. By the end, but now all 3 of the kids have come down with a stomach bug or something, and covered in vomit. I've changed so many disgusting diapers that I can see them when I close my eyes. The crying. Oh my gosh, the crying. It's reached new levels. The downstairs neighbor actually came up to check on the kids. They thought I was abusing them or something because of all the crying. But no, half of the crying was probably me anyways. It was only 2 of them that was sick at first, and I thought I could handle that. It really did. But once the 3rd started puking all over me, I just had to throw in the towel. I'm glad that I kept my boss ex's number on my phone in case of an emergency, or I don't know what I would have done. By the sound of things, he's furious. He didn't believe me at first when I told him that Mary had blindsided me into babysitting for 3 weeks. But once the kid started sobbing in the background, I think he realized that I was telling the truth.
He's on his way over.
I think he was on a business in Germany or something. He owns a couple of restaurant chains, and last I heard, he was hoping to expand there. He said he'd be there in about 15 hours, and that was 10 hours ago.
He said he was going to hire a jet and be here ASAP.
I'm trying to hold on and remind myself that there are only 5 hours left until I can go home, take a shower, and sleep for a week. But right now, 5 hours with these kids feels like a century. I know that I'm going to lose my job for calling them. There's no potential outcome when Mary doesn't treat this like a complete betrayal.
But I don't care anymore at this point. I'm tired. I'm dirty.
I think I've developed a twitch, and I think my hearing is probably irreparably damaged. If this job means that I have to pick up all these things, then I don't want it anymore. Update number 3. As I suspected, I was fired. I just wanted to get that out the way before anyone scrolled down and asked what the reading the entire thing's about. A lot of you seem to be very invested in the future of my employment, so I just wanted to let you know first. There was no doubt in my mind that it was coming, so I wasn't exactly surprised when it did. But I must say that I expected more than just a text message. After 5 years of service, it's been 3 days since my boss's ex came to relieve me of my duties. It was scary when he walked into the apartment.
He's pretty big.
And from the look on his face, I thought that he was going to punch me or something. Because when I tell you the apartment was a mess, I mean it. Toys everywhere, half-eaten food laying around. I didn't even know better. It was like I was just leaving the kids to their own devices. I think it was just the fact that they were all clean and relatively happy that stopped him from hitting me.
His eyes were crazy wild, but
they seemed to settle down in an instant once he saw the children were okay. After he realized that I haven't been kicking them around the room or anything, he was a lot nicer. He gave me a big pat on the back that nearly made me exhausted self-collapse. As he thanked me for taking care of his children and calling him, I was just happy to get out of there. I don't know what happened after that, but I assume he probably used his crazy rich man powers to contact Mary somehow. So, she wasn't answering her phone to me, but maybe he knew who she was with and called them or something. To be honest, I haven't thought about it much. I'm just glad I'm home. Well, I got a text from Mary this morning. After I skimmed past all the threats to take me to court, and the promise to make sure I never worked again, there was this at the bottom. Just one line telling me that my employment was terminated, effective
immediately.
If I hadn't been expecting it, I thought that it probably would have hurt a lot more. But I knew that this was coming, and I was kind of looking forward to it, to tell you the truth. I owe her nothing, and it feels like a huge weight's been lifted off my chest. I haven't realized how much stress and tension I was carrying around with me. On call 24/7, always having to be ready to deal with one of Mary's moods. As I said before, it does sting that 5-year employment was terminated through one sentence at the end of an abusive text, but I shouldn't have expected very much more, to tell you the truth. When I was first fired, I had to start immediately because the last person in my position had left suddenly. And now I know why, because she's absolutely insane. I do have a little anxiety about finding a new job, I'll admit that. Even with the weight off my chest, I know that I'm going to find it difficult to get a job that pays as well as that, considering my lack of qualifications. I think I'm going to take a week or two just to recover before I start sending out resumes. I think I've earned it after all that I was put through. Update number 4. Final update. I've been called into court as a witness, and I'm freaking out beyond belief. I have no idea what I'm going to say, do, or wear. So my ex-boss, Mary, had been taken to court by her ex-husband.
The one I called to come and take the kids off my hands. He's suing her for custody on the grounds that she engaged in deliberate and willful child neglect by leaving the kids with me, someone who has no idea how to take care of kids. He's also suing her for using his monthly alimony payments to pay for her little vacation. I, being the key witness and the one pretty much in the middle of this entire thing, have been called into court to give testimony on, well, his behalf. If that's not bad enough, multiple employees at the company I used to work at have come forward and stated that they haven't received their wages in over 3 months. Because of this, it comes out that the company was bleeding money. Mary inherited the company from her parents about 8 years ago when they retired, and it seems like ever since then she's been running it into the ground. Apparently, she was originally keeping things going barely, using alimony from her ex, but then decided that she was going to spend it on vacation instead. So, now my ex-boss has the IRS after her for misfiling her taxes, her ex against her for child neglect, and multiple ex-employees suing for lost wages. I can't help but feel like this thing is all my fault. I don't see how it could be anyone else's. I'm the one who called her ex. If he had not gotten involved, none of this would have happened. The news sites are saying that she has a high probability of going to prison for all of this. The charges against her are serious, and I know that her ex is gunning for jail time. It feels like the child neglect case is the first domino, and if it gets knocked down, her entire life is going up in flames. And it feels like I'm the one who's about to push the domino over and ruin her life. I'm worried that I'm going to mess up on the stand, say something stupid. Mary's ex promised me that day, when he came to pick us up, if Mary fired me, he'd provide me with a job. At the time, it felt like something that he was just saying to be nice, but he's contacted me since and offered me a position as a manager at one of his restaurants. I told him no, because I have no experience in the food industry, but I'm worried that Mary's lawyer is going to find out about this and accuse me of being in cahoots with her ex. I don't know much about the law, obviously, and I don't know what's allowed and what's not between witnesses and plaintiffs. What if they ask me if I'm working for him and I trip myself up trying to explain the situation and end up committing perjury or something? Then, well, I'd be the one led away in chains while Mary gets off free for dumping her kids on me and leaving the country. Intellectually, I know that I'm just being silly. I'm just anxious about the situation, and my brain is just going crazy with these stories to make me feel even worse. To scare me, and I know that there's nothing wrong with Mary's ex offering me a job, and I know that it has nothing to do with the actual charges being brought up against her, but I'm still nervous. She was a crappy boss, but we did have some good times together. When my mom got sick, she gave me a month of paid leave to take care of her. I feel like I'm betraying the lady just as much as I'm helping this awful and abusive version of the face of the truth about what she did. Well, I just want to thank everybody who replied to my original post in the updates, and who sent me advice. I know now more about setting and crying toddlers than I ever did before, and I have no idea what I'm going to do with that information, but I appreciate it. I'm going to start job hunting tomorrow, and hopefully I get something worthwhile. Something that doesn't ask for references or experience or any qualifications. Ugh, wish me luck.